what really happens after we die. Have you ever stopped and wondered if consciousness truly ends or continues in some form? Why do so many people report similar experiences when they come close to death? Is it just the brain reacting or something more? And if there is another side, what does it look like? Is it a place, a feeling, or a state of awareness? These questions may seem impossible to answer, but what if exploring them could change how you see your life right now? Before you decide what to believe, maybe it's time to ask what you've never questioned. What happens after we die? Is there really something beyond this life, or is it simply the end? These are questions that have followed humanity for centuries, crossing cultures, religions, and generations. And yet, even today, the answers remain deeply personal, often mysterious, and sometimes surprisingly consistent. In today's episode, inspired by the teachings and experiences associated with Dr. Brian Weiss, we explore a topic that many are curious about, but few truly understand: the other side. Not as a place of fear, but as a concept of continuation, awareness, and perhaps something far more peaceful than we imagine. Imagine this: you're no longer aware of your body. The weight, the tension, the constant movement, it's all gone. There is no pain, no rush, no pressure, just a sense of calm, of stillness. And yet, you are still aware. You can think, you can feel, you can observe, but everything is different. People who have experienced deep meditative states, near-death experiences, or regression sessions often describe something similar: a transition not into darkness, but into clarity. A feeling of expansion, as if the boundaries that once defined you no longer exist. Now, let's pause for a moment, because from a scientific perspective, consciousness is often explained as a function of the brain. When the brain stops, awareness stops. Simple, logical. But then come the stories. People who were clinically close to death describing vivid experiences, seeing things they couldn't have physically seen, feeling emotions that go beyond ordinary explanation. Are these just chemical reactions in the brain? Or could they be glimpses into something we don't yet fully understand? According to the work often discussed by Dr. Brian Weiss, many individuals under deep relaxation or hypnosis report accessing a state that feels like a transition space, a place between lives. They describe it not as a physical location, but as a state of being. There is no body, but there is identity. There is no time, but there is awareness. There is no fear, only understanding. Imagine being in a space where everything makes sense, where the confusion of life begins to clear, where the questions you carried for so long finally have answers. Some describe meeting guides, beings, or presences that feel wise, calm, and deeply understanding. Not in a dramatic or overwhelming way, but in a quiet, reassuring presence. Others describe reconnecting with loved ones, not as physical forms, but as energy, as awareness, as connection. And the most common feeling? Peace. A deep, overwhelming sense of peace. Now, does this prove the existence of the other side? Not necessarily, but it raises an important question. Why are these experiences so similar across different people, cultures, and backgrounds? Why do people who have never met, never shared beliefs, describe the same feelings, the same transitions, the same sense of calm? One possibility is that the human mind, under certain conditions, creates similar experiences. Another possibility is that we are touching something real, something beyond ordinary perception. Now let's bring this closer to your own life. Have you ever had a moment where time seemed to stop? Where everything felt quiet, clear, almost expanded? Maybe during deep reflection, meditation, or even in a powerful, emotional moment. These glimpses, small as they may seem, could be hints of a different state of awareness, not separate from life, but connected to it in a deeper way. And this is where the idea becomes less about what happens after death and more about how we live now. Because if there is something beyond this life, if consciousness continues in some form, then what we do here matters in a different way. Not in terms of success or status, but in terms of growth, understanding, compassion. According to many interpretations of these experiences, life is not just about events, it's about learning. Every challenge becomes a lesson. Every relationship becomes an opportunity. Every moment becomes part of a larger journey. Now think about this. If fear is reduced, if the idea of ending is replaced with continuation, how would that change the way you live? Would you hold on to anger as tightly? Would you fear failure as much? Or would you begin to see life as something to experience rather than something to control? This shift in perspective is one of the most powerful aspects of exploring the other side. It doesn't require you to fully believe. It simply invites you to consider, to remain open, to question not just the world around you, but your own understanding of existence. Now let's talk about something deeper. The fear of the unknown. It's natural, human. We fear what we can't see, can't prove, can't control. But sometimes the unknown is not something to fear. Sometimes it's something to explore. Because throughout history, many of the things we once considered impossible became understood over time. So what if consciousness itself is still a mystery we are only beginning to explore? What if the other side is not a place, but a different level of awareness? And what if, just what if the boundaries we believe exist are not as fixed as they seem? Now imagine approaching life with that perspective, not as something temporary and fragile, but as part of a continuous journey. A journey where every experience, good or bad, has value, where every moment contributes to something larger, and where the end is not truly the end. As this conversation comes to a close, let's return to the most important part. Not what happens after life, but what you do with the life you have now. Because regardless of what you believe about the other side, one thing is certain. You are here. You are aware. You have the ability to think, to feel, to choose. And that, in itself, is powerful. So instead of focusing only on what comes next, take a moment to reflect on what is happening now. How you think, how you treat others, how you respond to challenges. Because if there is something beyond this life, then this moment is part of that journey. And if there isn't, then this moment becomes even more valuable. Either way, your awareness matters. Your choices matter. Your growth matters. So maybe the real question is not just, what is the other side? But, what are you doing on this side while you're here? And perhaps that's where the real journey begins.